Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ascendance Aftershow. I am Sam here with my co-host Josh, and
Hello.
we are here to talk about record making. No, I don't know.
History making, episode
History
5.
making. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word
No,
history.
that's okay,
History
yeah.
making. Episode of Ascendance. Yeah, how are you? How are you doing tonight, Josh? I hope you have better ease with words than I do.
Yes, it's I'm really looking forward to talking about this episode. It was a big round for me personally, and I know for our guests who we have on as well, a lot happened for all of us, so it'll be fun to dive in and get talking about what happened that you don't see on the camera.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of guests, let's welcome everybody in. First up with us, we have Oakley and AJ and Debbie. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Guys.
Thank you for having us.
I'm like so excited to dive into this. I took notes. I always take notes, but like
that's so
I,
good.
set up like my
Oh,
thing with like the board and the
so
people.
good because it's like I have my notebook
I got,
somewhere.
like-
It's hard to remember. Yeah, everything. Although watching it back, I was like bringing back memories.
Yeah.
Yes, there was definitely a few things where when it showed up on the screen, I was like, I 100% forgot that happened. And some of it was really major stuff. And I was like, how did this just erase from my brain? But I mean, it was a long season and a lot happened and it was a long time ago. So Oakley, I guess the last episode leading into this one, you had just voted for, was it for Corian? Am I right? No, that was the wrong episode. That was the wrong episode. That was when I got votes. That's what happened.
Right around like this time in the game, our brains like really started to like feel really mushy. And so right around this time in like, the podcast, it just makes sense that we're all kind of like, I don't know what happened. Where are we? What planet are we on?
Well, and I was telling my friends, they were over last night. We were watching the episodes and like the start of episode 5 is still day 1.
Yeah.
Like we had been going all day long and then we're just thrust into another round of the game. I know I was exhausted. I don't know about the rest of you.
I think it was like till 2 a.m. day 1. I mean we were up much later, but I think everything lasted till 2. We'll get to that because we were up much later that we'll get to.
Yeah.
Oakley's dreading it.
It's the worst thing. Every night I wanted to try to go sleep early and everyone always had some reason.
Yeah.
I 2:30 in the morning, but I don't know if that's correct.
I couldn't tell you. But with this challenge, this captain's challenge, I was excited when it was letters, words, that kind of thing. So I was like, yeah, this is something I could totally do. But then I totally didn't. And didn't even submit a word because running is hard and running for the letters, you just kind of threw everything else off. But Josh, you took this one. Was this something that you were going for? Like, did you want to win? How did you feel?
I mean,
the challenge?
I think going into it, but after just coming off of like I got 2 votes, like my name was starting to get out there. Looking back, like I didn't realize how much Lance was actually like gunning for me. And we had that whole drama with getting shut out of rooms, which like totally was hard for me to watch because from my perspective and my reality and my remembrance, like I was never one to like be like, hey, no, we need a second, like please leave. I was always like, yes, come in, like please join the conversation. And so I felt really like panicked and like I need to like fix everything because somebody's upset with me. But like I can totally see how from Lance's point of view, his reality was like, oh, Josh is like really like trying to control a lot of the conversations that are happening, which isn't what I was trying to do. So I definitely felt like there's a target on my back. And is winning captain gonna make it bigger? Sure, maybe, but it's already there. So I kind of just had to lean into that fact of like the target's there. There's nothing I can really do to get rid of it. So I may as well just fight as hard as I can. So I didn't think I was going to win for sure, but I was like, I'm going to do my best to see what happens. So I was definitely giving it my all.
And we saw what happened.
AJ, you pointed out something interesting just in one of your confessionals about the challenge. So, if you're going for it, and you're trying, a lot of people, have been throwing this season, but that's besides the point. If you don't win, if you don't get that number one spot, you're almost at a disadvantage when it comes to picking your team, because you have very little control over where you're going to end up. So despite having done really well, if you're one of those first three people picking, you're starting the team. You don't even know who's like going to come after. You were picking close to the end. How did you end up picking the team that you went to when ultimately you go over to the black team? Yes.
Oh. so I was thinking this team is almost completely full. Like full stop. This is like almost a complete team. I see what is happening, and I'm assuming if this is a team challenge, I want a team that has done well in this challenge. So let me try to be in the most like complete, well-rounded team versus a team that I'm not sure who's going to be on the green team or the under team yet, because there's still a lot of people behind me. So I prefer like so I always look at that as like a challenge. Like you got Bergen's fit, you got German's fit, Julia is smart. I was like, I'm smart, I can code my own in these challenges. So I was thinking more of like, okay, I want to be safe again. Like being safe these past couple rounds were nice. Let's do it a third time in a row. That's why.
And then they're like, all right, everybody just go lay down outside.
Oh, that's it. Like as soon as they was like, oh, each of y'all voting, I was like, my friends are on the other team. That's not great. That is not good.
Yeah, I just remember like the round before, by the time I picked, I think me, Oakley, and Sam were like towards the end, if I recall. Yeah, my word was like 4 or 5 letters. Like I sucked. I couldn't find the letters I was looking for. Like I even said in my confessional, I'm like, I'm gonna suck at this. Like I tried. I did not throw anything all season. Clearly, I've won 2 captain challenges. Like when Mike went out, that I went guns blazing. Like everyone knows that was my number 1 by now. So like, and I knew a target was on my back. So yeah, I didn't know a lot of people were throwing. I never threw, but I knew I sucked at that word thing. So when I was picking like closer to last, obviously I didn't know Bergen was like gunning for me because we were like splitting the advantage, and I was like, I didn't have a good read. So I was like, okay, I just voted out Corian, and it was very obvious and clear that round that I was trying to save Mike. Like I even think I kind of tried to lie to Josh, to you about it. And then I was like, oh, they know. Like because I remember you nudged me, like going back an episode, you're like, did you vote Mike out? And I was like, kind of, yeah. And then Corian gave me like the side eye, like rolling his eyes, nasty look. And I'm like, he knows. And then I tried to talk. They didn't show this on camera, but I pulled Corian aside and like, I knew he was mad. He's like, we're good. I'm over it. I'm like, he's not over it. So going this round, the other team was full. And I was like, I cannot go on Corian's team. Like I just voted him out. So, I went to the team, and I felt like at that time, I didn't know what was going on. So I felt pretty good with like, Oakley, you weren't on the team yet, but I felt like good with you, but you weren't on the team yet. But I felt pretty good with like Sky and Duke. I felt decent with Lance. So I was like, I'm just going to go on this team. I can't, it's too late with Corian. So yeah, that was my whole, like, I mean, I didn't know what was going on. And then I remember, again, they didn't show this, but I remember talking to Duke right before we went outside to lay. And like, I was in my pajama pants because I was like layering up. I was wearing Sam's like sweatshirts and stuff. We talked about this. And I remember talking like on the side to Duke, and we were like, yeah, we got to go for this. Like he was like making it seem like he was working with me. And then he's like, well, I don't know. I might just like drop and go inside to eat dinner. I'm like, you're not freaking dropping. But anyway, so yeah, that was the start of it. Like we all, like my whole thing was like, I just voted Corian out, so I can't. And you voted him too, right? Oh, 2 rounds ago, but you voted him too, right, Oakley?
Yeah, I did. And my memory looking back on it was I pushed really hard because I did not want Tim to go the first time. And I really, really did not want Mike to leave because we just made a final 2 that round. And so I was like, okay, like, I gotta like start putting myself out there, and I'm safe, so I know I'm fine no matter what. And then Mike left, and I was like, yeah, the exact same logic as you, Debbie. I was like, if I go over there, he has like such an easy person to go after in me. And so I'm just like,
I think you even said that in your confessional. I think you,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting because I didn't realize, and I talked about this, I think, with Duke and Mike on the episode that they were on, of like I don't recall at the time Corian being as heavy of a vote. I didn't think as many people were on board with that as ended up being. And I remember Duke saying to him, I'm like, if I realized that you were gonna vote that way, because him and I were very close in the game, I was like, if I realized that you were going to vote that way and Bergen wanted to vote that way, like I would have voted that way. Like I wasn't attached to either Mike or Corian as much. But it ended up like being such a close vote that it was like, if somebody had just told me that was really what the plan was and Bergen and Duke were on board, like it could have changed the trajectory of the game there. So it's just interesting how those kinds of decisions then now affect the choices that you two are making, 2 rounds down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's funny because like I didn't even know Mike that, and not to talk about that round, but Mike was throwing Duke under the bus to try and save himself about the podcast. So I actually thought, oh shit, Duke's not going to vote to keep Mike, but he did vote to keep Mike. So.
I didn't know it was Duke the entire.
Yeah, me neither. I thought he voted against him. Yeah.
Until the episode, I didn't know that it was Duke.
Oh wow. I knew eventually. Like I don't know what we can talk about at this point, but. Like I knew eventually that it was him, but at that time I did not.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up like not seeing it until the episode or not remembering it until the episode or knowing it. Like I totally forgot that I didn't have to pick the teams because I was racking my brain of like, how did I pick the teams? Like what even happened? Like I knew I was safe and I knew that I voted in all the things. And then when they were like, you're picking your own teams based on how you finished, I was like, oh yeah, like that totally was what happened. How did you guys feel? I know you can see in the episode when they announce it's the triple, which is like history making. My jaw was like on the floor. Like I don't know how you guys felt. Like AJ, for you, was that something that you were all of a sudden like because you said you were planning for a team challenge, but now it's all of a sudden an individual challenge where you're like, what were you going through there?
I was really like, crap. That's I was like, oh no. I don't like this team. This is not because when I looked at the team, I was like, I have a final 3 with Julia, and that's the only person I felt remotely comfortable with in the people that I was voting. Like, I was like, me and German ain't talk much. Me and Bergen don't have that great relationship, and I was like, oh, I made a mistake here.
I mean, I was just like, shit. I was just like, shit, I need to win this. And once we were out there and like those like Oakley, Duke, and Lance were super solid, I'm like, I got to drop for an advantage. But I was like, shit. And so actually I don't know if they showed this, but we voted whether we wanted to go outside or stay inside. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the people pushing for inside just because they were like, it's going to be harder, but it's going to be quicker. And I feel decent about endurance, but it was so freaking cold that I was like, no, I want inside. And I remember I was pushing and everyone was pushing outside and I was like, fuck. But I was like really wanting to do an inside because I was like, if it's a balancing or something, like I could do this, but not freeze in the cold. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, like coming in last, I didn't get to choose. So it was just, there was the one spot on the blue team left. So I was a little bit scared, honestly, because I'm on a team full of people that I don't have anything like super solid with. So like, yeah, Dave, Corian, Nia, Maddie. And so with groups that small and as good as I feel about just like my like social relationships, nobody had a reason to target me there, but nobody had a reason not to either. So I was kind of like thinking between like, okay, do I go back in and like make sure I'm having those conversations? And like, I'm probably not going to like last that long because like my toes were just frozen and I was afraid for my toes. But that was also going through my mind of like, am I wasting my time out here and all this stuff? And I don't know if like this came out after the fact, and I can't remember who I talked to about with this, but it was either Nia or Maddie or both of them. But when it came down to Dave and Corian outside, we had said, you know what? You literally never know what's going to happen in this game. Can we all just say that we are willing to vote out whoever doesn't win? Just so, I don't know, in case something happens in the middle of the night, we can't talk to each other, we can't reconvene or anything. We just, let's throw votes there so that we know we're okay, we're safe. Except then Dave didn't win. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to vote Dave out. And so I didn't really bring it back up. And I don't think that it kind of like went anywhere, but just like, it's a thing that happened.
No, I was so annoyed out there because I'm over here. I'm focusing. I'm a lock in. I don't like my odds, but I'm gonna try my hardest. Then on my left hand side, you have Dave is over here solid. On my right hand side is Debbie. She just chit chatting like nothing's bothering her or nothing. I was like, oh my god, how are y'all not struggling?
Getting to that, obviously they didn't show a lot. I think because it was too long of footage, but there was a lot of conversation and a lot that happened. So for me, when I'm like uncomfortable like that, I need to talk through it. If I wasn't talking and chit-chatting, I would have been feeling that pain. So German was next to me and he was motivating me that whole time. We were talking. I was like, German, do not stop talking to me. And every time I almost dropped for the advantage, he's like, you could do this. Don't drop. Keep going. You could win. Like, I was like, I don't know, German. I can't. He's like, do it. Like, and we did bond. And you'll see later in the episode how he tells Lance that he bonded with me. Like, me and German were literally about to start like an alliance or something. But anyway, yeah. So I was like talking to him the whole time, and I was just like, should I drop? No, I'm not going to drop for this one. And I kept like waiting. So that was going on. But yeah, it was literally because if I would have been so freaking bored if I didn't talk and I would have felt the pain. And yeah, I don't take boredom well. Like I had to talk like, oh, what time is it? The other thing is that they clearly didn't show everyone talking, but like, it was a funny like blooper moment. Corian, do you guys all remember he was so loud talking about Wendy Williams' show? Do you guys remember that? And then like there was a point where Sam talking about toes being numb, like my foot totally fell asleep. I literally like in 30 degrees took my shoe and sock off and like was like barefoot. And then Corian's talking about my pedicure. And then I'm asking Dave next to me if I'm going to need to see if my foot's going to not fall asleep. He's like, I don't know, Debbie, I'm not a podiatrist.
I was down at the end chilling by myself, not listening to anything, clearly. Just in my own little world. Because in my mind, I was like, this was a mistake. I had like a same moment as you did, AJ. I was like, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. And I was like, I have to win. And it's not really shown well, but when I dropped, we had been up there, Lance, Duke, and I, for probably 2.5 hours, whatever it was. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to drop because I don't think I'm going to beat them. And I don't want to like end up hurting myself. And so I drop and I don't even have time to stand up. And Duke is like, okay, I'm done. Drops. That's when panic set in. It's like, God, these people are just waiting for me.
Yeah.
He was not slick about that at all.
You can see in the episode, like, I think you're like out of the frame by that point, but you can still hear your like, did he drop already? There's something I could hear your voice in the background of the shot when Duke drops. Like you must have just like rolled out of the way or something. But yeah, it was not long after.
Like less than 10.
I actually think you guys were out there for 3 hours because I remember it was almost 2 hours because when I came in for my small advantage, I remember Nicole saying you were out there for 2 hours. So you guys were probably out there for an hour longer than me. So must have been
I think Oakley, you must have been like 2.5 probably. Because I know Dave and Corian were out there for a little while by themselves.
Yeah. Oh, right. So maybe 3 hours total with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was jealous. I was a little jealous that I didn't get to compete in that one because I was like heading into the game in general. I was like, I really want to do an endurance challenge, and so that was like, I was like, maybe there's never going to be another endurance challenge in this season, and I didn't get to compete in this one, and I was very disappointed. But I also was nice and warm inside.
Trust me, I would. You're lucky you didn't have to do that and get like frostbitten toes. You were good the next day. You weren't sore.
I'm Canadian. I'm used to it. So like,
I made sure because like I was in early, like a little bit earlier. I don't know. I don't remember how long I lasted, but I was making tea and hot chocolate and getting warm blankets for people. I was like, you know, when there's like, I don't know, you're just feeling danger, but there's something you can do about it. So I was like, well, I can make people happy with things, and hopefully they'll remember that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, literally and figuratively. So yeah, that's what I was up to while everyone was freezing their butts off outside.
Yeah.
Plus,
And
well,
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember which of the girls it was, if it was you, Sky, or Nia, but someone had wine and they were like, "Here, Debbie, take some wine." I was like, oh.
Maybe it was you. Maybe I shared with you.
Yeah, no, definitely. It might have been you. Someone, I think it was you, Sam. It was like you ladies were all sitting there and you're like, "Take some wine, Debbie." I'm like, okay, sure.
I think Sam, you and Nia both ended up with wine.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any of the advantages like announced, like were they was anybody tempted, or were you just like, no, next, let's keep going?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they don't show this, but like they show Bergen dropping after me, but the one I got, I kept being tempted, and I was talking to German. He's like, "Don't do it yet." And then I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm not getting out unless I get an advantage. Like, I'm going to wait for that. So once they said it, I don't know if you guys remember, Bergen was like 2 seconds after me, and I said my name like right before him, and then he dropped, which I didn't realize also put a target on my back, like going so like hard for that advantage. But yeah, then when I got inside, and all it really was knowing about the next challenge, and everyone thought it was this like big advantage. I think people didn't believe me. I was telling people, I'm like, it's just knowing about the next challenge. Like, I didn't even think it was that big of a deal, but people thought I had this big advantage, and it really wasn't. Yeah, you thought I had a big advantage, Oakley?
No, I fully believed you when you said, "Oh, it's stupid. It's a challenge. See the next challenge." And I was like, I completely believe her. But when everyone else was talking, like, Debbie has an advantage, I was like, ugh.
Yeah. See, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that you had anything, or like, because I don't know, maybe I wasn't outside when it happened, or I don't know, but. I think I had heard from Bergen that you had something. I was like, Debbie, my roommate, has something, and I don't know.
Well, I think I didn't say anything because, like, if we would have gone through the next round, I probably would have. But like, it only was like my team that round, and clearly I didn't say anything to anyone other than Bergen about, which we'll get to, about the half pendant. Like that, no one. I don't think. Well, he might have told people, but I didn't tell anyone. I was hiding that. But the advantage, people thought, I was like, just knowing, I should have just showed it to people. Like, here's what it is. It's really not a big deal. But I just thought when I dropped that, even though they said small, I thought maybe it was going to be like another half pendant or something. I don't know. I thought it was going to be bigger than it was.
Well, especially with somebody with a half pendant in your pocket, you're almost even more incentivized to like, yes, you know where the other half is, but you never know. Maybe like they'll put 3 halves and like just let chaos reign.
Right.
Did you drop for anything, AJ, or did you just?
I dropped for alcohol. And it was a blue moon, and it was good. And Nicole was teasing me because she gave me a beer opener, and I was just like, couldn't open it. And she's like, "You young kid, it was a twist. It was a twist cap, baby."
I think I remember standing in the kitchen when that happened. Now that you say that, I remember that now. AJ's like, I can't get this off, and somebody walks up and was like, "It's a twist off," and it was like, "Oh my god, okay." Slightly dejected, AJ walks away.
There's one thing overnight that we have to talk about at Oakley. It's referenced just a little bit here and there, where we're like, okay, Oakley like had there was just like a big thing that happened in the night. There was like a big emotional response to just, I don't know, all kinds of things going on. But I think a few of us kind of got a different perspective of it, because I know like I had talked to you upstairs with Josh. I think you were there. AJ, I don't know if you were kind of in and out and around.
If it's the conversation I'm thinking of, it was you two, Sam and Josh, with Dave.
Yes. Yes.
And I think maybe somebody else was in and out of it.
I think it was AJ.
Yeah. And so from my perspective, I mean, everybody's just exhausted, tired, overwhelmed, overstimulated, just like everything is just like, but on top of that, you seeing Duke drop like as soon as you're out, and you know all of these things kind of happening, like you're stressed, right? How much of like do you, as much as you're comfortable sharing, or like what was going through your mind like that night where there was just so much going on?
Just from the moment I picked my team, I was like, okay. I even had the thought of, okay, I'm picking this group because I think we're gonna win, so I won't have to worry about it. And that was like immediately destroyed. So I then start going into survival mode of, okay, like I genuinely think I will leave if I don't win. So I'm up there and I'm fighting and giving it my all, and I'm just every now and again while I'm laying there with my backing, all the dirt sucking the heat out of my body, I just look and I just see Duke staring at me, and then I'll look over at him for a couple seconds and he'll look away, and then I'll look back and he'll like coyly start looking at me again, and then I'll like that, and then I drop and he drops immediately after, and I see him and Lance talk a little bit, and I'm like, God. And so then I try going on my campaign to get Sky out, and 0% of people were interested. I know I think it was that conversation where I came up to you two and Dave, and probably AJ was there a little bit as well. And I was like, I just think Sky is controlling the game. And no one seems to be listening to me. And I feel like everyone that I wanted to work with keeps leaving, and I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's probably a big part of it. I was exhausted. I was tired. I really wanted to win that challenge, and I thought I would at the beginning, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And when, Debbie, it wasn't recorded, but there was a conversation you and I had.
Yep.
And it's me sitting down and talking to Debbie while she's like trying to go to bed, and she's
4:30 in the morning.
And I'm just like, I really think that you are the most safe person out of all four of us. And I genuinely believed it in that moment. I didn't see a world where Debbie left.
Yeah.
Okay, my question. Sorry, was that before or after we talked upstairs?
After. It was after because I remember, it's coming back to me now. I was exhausted. I like laid down in the bed. I'm like, Sam, are you gonna go to bed? And you're like, I'm just gonna be like upstairs talking to people. I'm like, I remember it was like 3ish. I try and go to bed. I hear people talking. I come out in the room with like Lance and Corian, and he's like, oh, don't worry, it's Oakley, whatever. Like that's what people were telling me. But I knew Oakley was trying to get Sky out. And then like 4:30 in the morning, or around there, whenever it was, I try and go to bed, and Oakley comes and sits on the bed, and you're like having a heart to heart with me, and you're like, I genuinely think you and Duke are like the safest people right now. Like no one's saying your name. And you're like, we need to get Sky out. Like you were like pitching Sky. You're like, I think it's either going to be like Sky or me. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, which I didn't say to you, I'm like, I'm not stupid. I see how close Josh and Sky are, because I was just in that room beforehand and you and Sky were whispering in the bed. I'm like, I see them as a duo. They're voting together. Even though you guys were telling me it's Oakley, I'm like, I don't know. Like, and then I knew Duke was close with Sky, and I'm like, this isn't going to work. And I remember saying to you, like, try, but it's not going to work. And you were like so upset. And at that point, like, I don't know if people change in the morning from the night, but I literally believed, like, that's why when you see and people are saying I felt comfortable, like I never felt comfortable, but I genuinely believed, like, people were telling me like, oh, we don't need to talk. Like, but then I saw Oakley and Sky talking in the morning. So I knew something was up. But yeah, me and Oakley had like a heart to heart, like, and that's why in that scene, I thought it was going to be the opposite, but I like say to Oakley, like, whatever happens, like I meant what I said. I was like, I genuinely enjoyed meeting you. And I freaking say to him, get back in the battle back. Meanwhile, it's my ass going.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I do remember that conversation, Oakley, we had in the hallway with Sam and Dave. And I was so conflicted because like at that point we were like locked. I was like, Oakley's gone. Like that was just what was happening. Mm-hmm. And I remember you were so upset and you were trying to pitch Sky to me. And I was kind of like trying not to agree, but also trying to like comfort you as a human being. Because we had, I don't think we talked about this, but during the memory competition, the story competition, Oakley and I got locked in a pantry for like the entire time you were doing that competition. And so it was like 2 hours. I don't know. It felt like 2 hours. I don't know how long it actually was. And so I was so conflicted because we had bonded and I was like, I really like Oakley, but I'm like, I don't see another option. And that's why I said in my voting confessional that it was the hardest round for me because I had a connection with Debbie and I really wanted to keep you, but I had a connection with Oakley and really wanted to keep him. And it just was like, I remember trying to be like comforting and sympathetic towards you. And I don't think it came off well, because I think you left that conversation like more sad than when you joined the conversation, and I felt really bad about that.
Yep, I definitely left sad, and then as soon as I was going down the stairs, it turned to annoyance because the way that you were saying it, I could tell that you just were not on board at all, and I was like, oh my god. Even like the words you were using is, I think I described it as like he was giving me my eulogy. Like
I think you said that too.
You were using even like past tense words. It's like, oh, you played well. I'm like, excuse you.
I think you said that in that conversation. You're like, it sounds like you're giving my eulogy, and I was like, I'm trying not to. I promise. I'm so sorry.
So funny.
So let me ask you a question, Oakley, or Josh and Oakley, or whatever. Probably Oakley would know more. So I don't know if you can answer this, or I mean, it was so long ago. I'm just curious. But so when you talked to Sky that morning in the pantry, like, were you like, I need to save myself? Or were you guys like, okay, it's got to be Debbie? Like, I'm curious what happened there, like when it shifted.
From my memory, it felt, the timeline, I think, in my mind was at some point in the morning, like early in the morning. Like I woke up and I had this conversation within 3 minutes with you, Josh, where I was like, what do I have to do to stay? I think that was like how I phrased this. What do I have to do to stay? And I was like, okay, you weren't in disguise. So like between Duke or Debbie, what should I do? And you pointed me in the direction of Debbie. So then I was like, God, then in my mind, I was like, God, now I need to go try to make amends with Sky. What I know, she knows I was throwing her name out. So I didn't even know what I was going to do or what I was going to say. And I don't really remember what I said. I more just confirmed Debbie with her. And I'm sure you two had already talked about it, you and Sky, Josh, about doing Debbie before it got to me.
Yeah, so I recall, I don't remember if it was the night of the challenge or it was the next morning, but I remember walking into the Coliseum and Sky and Duke were talking. And by the time I had entered the competition or the conversation, they were already like, it has to be Debbie. And so I don't know what changed, but it was like right before we went to bed or like right as soon as we woke up in the morning. And I was walking into that conversation already. And I was like, does it really have to be Debbie? And they're like, yes, I think it needs to be Debbie. And I was like, all right, if that's what you guys want, like, let's see if we can make that happen. And so then I think it just sort of, people were really viewing you as a social threat, because anytime before that your name got brought up, people just weren't interested in doing it. And so we were like, man, Debbie's got to be the most connected person in this entire game.
Which is funny because, yeah, so no, watching it back, it's like, hey, I'll take that, whatever. Like, it's 6 months ago. Like, I'm laughing. Like, obviously at the time I was super upset. But it's funny because, like, everyone kept saying I was socially connected. Like, I knew Mike before the game. Like, I mean, I didn't know he was playing, but like we've played together. So like I knew him. So like we were friends. But like the people I thought I was socially connected to, I don't think I really was. Like I had met Sky in Orlando. So like I knew her a little. But yeah, Duke, I played Ascend the Chaos with online. So like, I don't know if it was just that perception because I was good at like fighting my name off, or if I was trying to be one-on-one social with people. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was like, I really didn't even know that many people. Maybe I was just trying really hard to like be really social.
Yeah, so I think it's less about, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
I think we're going to say the same thing, but for me, whenever the thought crossed my mind of, Debbie's a social threat, it was purely social capital within this game without any of like the outside stuff. But that's because for me, I didn't know of who knew who. Yeah. So like it wasn't even like at the forefront of my mind. It more so just how I like saw things moving. One thing I just want to add to like the conversation that we had the night before with you, Oakley. I remember from what I understood in that moment that night was the only way Oakley gets out of this is by throwing Debbie under the bus. And I tried to communicate that to you subtly because I was like, Debbie's got a lot of friends, but you pulled on my heartstrings, Oakley, like you really did. And that's why I was like, okay, well, let's see. But you just didn't want to hear it because you had the blinders on for Sky. But so that's why I asked, like, did you go talk to Debbie after? And I didn't know how much of that you had picked up on,
Not
but I was, yeah. So
yeah, he seemed like he thought that he could get it on Sky.
I was like, I was just like, no, like that's not gonna happen. So I was trying to like lead you to what I thought was the answer in a way that wasn't going to be like, well, Sam said, but yeah, apparently I was just
Because the part of the conversation that I ended up leaving from that annoyed at Josh and being like, okay, so I'm going to round up Duke, Lance, and Debbie, and the four of us are going to vote out Sky. Screw Josh.
yeah.
That was my
And
part.
then
And then I just
hearing
needed
from
and then I calmed down.
And I knew Duke was never voting out Sky. That's why I was like, okay, Oakley, if you
Yeah.
can make this happen, but like, I don't see a world where this happens, but
yeah. So I mean, we come down to it, and it's a 5-1 vote. We're I guess what is it that I'm trying to ask here?
was I blindsided? Yes.
we do recall.
Yeah, no, okay. So Duke was never really an option. Like that had never come up.
Yeah.
And Sky was kind of like, some people wanted it, but that just didn't pick up traction. The 5-1 split. How shocking was that?
I mean, I was very shocked. Like, it's just like you see it, like I'm like, I never want to be comfortable in games. And then I see people saying she's so comfortable with her advantages. But like, I don't know, Oakley, you have this like magical power that you were like, you and Duke are safe. Like, no, like you're the most safe. I believed it. I didn't believe you that Sky was going at all. But like, I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry, Oakley. Like, and meanwhile, you're double playing me and you're lying to me. And like, that's why at first I was like, fuck him. Like, I mean, I was, of course, like I had a few days to get over it. And I was like, all right, like it was a game, like whatever. I was like, oh, I love Oakley. But no, like at first I was mad, but like you see us talking and I'm like, well, I'm so sorry. And I was like really crying and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then you're lying to me knowing I'm the one going. And I'm telling you.
So the entire time during that round, I just remember that I towards the end started to actually believe I was saying, but even when they were saying that it was you, I was like, whatever. I was so over it. And I started to believe it towards the end. But when I told you that you were the safest person, at that point, I believed it completely.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the next morning that I realized how wrong I was.
Yeah. So before that round, so it's funny watching it back with Bergen telling Duke that I had the half advantage. And I think that was probably the first time anyone knew that I had it. I don't know if Bergen told anyone. I didn't tell anyone I had it. Like
He did. He told a lot of people very quickly. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, I knew almost like right away.
So
Because he came to me during the deliberation for you going, and he's like, do you think Debbie will give me the half pendant? And I was like, I don't know. We can try. Like, she feels pretty safe. So, like, if I can help convince Debbie that she's 100% safe, maybe you can go to her and convince her that you're not safe, and she has to give you the half pendant. So you'd give it to him before the vote out, and then we would just vote you out with it, like with having given it to Bergen already, and he wouldn't have played it.
So he did talk to me. So to backtrack, did you guys know I had it before that round? Like, did he tell you right away when him and I got it?
I don't think I knew until this round.
Okay. I was gonna say, I thought you meant he told you right away. I was like, damn. So he told you guys we split the pendant right away. Okay, that makes sense. So because you knew he had it. Because I was like, why would he tell everyone that he has the half right away? Okay, that makes sense. That round that I was going. So yeah. So basically, Bergen pulls me in a room before the vote. And he does say that, like, so I see Duke and Bergen talking and him telling Duke that I have it. And Duke's like laughing. She's not going to give it to you. It was damn right I wasn't giving it to him. But it was funny because, like, looking back, like, it was the best thing to split it with him. Because if I tried to get the full pendant, I don't know what he was thinking, but like that round before, he would have freaking went and told everyone if I had the full pendant. Like that would have not been good. And I tried to build trust with him. So like I figured we had to, like, it was the best thing to do to split it. But so then I'm like, fuck, I wish I had the whole thing. So he comes and talks to me during the round. He's like, I don't know. I don't feel safe. Like, do you think you can give me the other half? And, or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, you really, like, I believed him, but I was not giving it to him. I'm like, you're fine. You're fine. There's no reason for you not to feel safe. Like, you're not going. And I'm like, well, maybe I should have the other half. And he's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, no, like, we should each hold on to the half. You're fine. And I remember he was like trying, and I'm like, no, like, we're going to we're holding on to it. And I was like, I'm not giving it to him. So yes. So like, I was definitely
no shame.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny because like, but then afterwards I was thinking about it and I felt bad during the vote. And I'm like, maybe I should give it to him. So then you see when I get up, I was going to give it to him and he looks at me like, I don't know if you saw his face, like he's like this. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to blow up his game. And then I had just bonded with German. I was like, well, maybe I should give it to German. I don't want it to look bad for German. So I was like, you know what? I'm holding on to this. I'm not giving it to anyone because I wanted to give it to someone, but I also didn't want it to be a bad thing to give it to someone. So I went out with both of them and then Corey is like, what you got there? And I'm like, I got two things. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't know, like, I had just bonded with German, so I wanted to give it to him because we had talked about working together that morning before he knew I was going, but I didn't want it to look bad if I gave it to him. And also, I didn't want to piss Bergen off because he was like, no, do not give it to me. So I guess it died with me.
Yep, it definitely was a way to go for sure. It was definitely the most exciting exit up to that point.
Yeah.
I know, so you were talking about Bergen feeling like he wasn't safe. I know, AJ, you were really the driving force behind that vote there for trying to get Bergen out. Like, do you, like, what was that like for your perspective? Like, were you aware that the votes were coming your way, or did you feel like Bergen was getting traction, or like, what was your experience with that round?
So like, going into that round, low-key before that round, right? I already knew. I was like, okay, so it's Sky and her boys. There's an alliance with Sky and Josh and Duke and Bergen. And I was like, I need to get one of those boys out. I'm not getting out Sky, but I need to get one of those boys out. So the previous round, I was like, can I get Duke out? And then we won safety, and I was like, oh, so I can't get Duke out. So seeing Bergen, I was like, if Bergen loses immunity, that's the name I want to go for. I want to go for Bergen, S, Y, and Z. That's what we're going to do, right? It made it easy because literally, before the challenge was even over, I think I was getting out the shower, and Charlie's like, oh yeah, Bergen wants you gone. So I was like, okay, so the vote's between me and Bergen at this point in time. And I was like, Josh ain't going to do Bergen. So I'm like, can I rally everyone?
Maybe.
I was like, can I rally everyone else to get Bergen out? And that was like basically my main goal for like the entire night. And even going into the next morning, it's funny because I was going to bed because I kept trying to talk to Julia, and Julia was either talking with someone else or just didn't want to talk with me. I was like, Julia, you're my phone. Why aren't you talking to me? So I decided. So I was going to bed. I was like
other people too.
I learned that afterwards.
No, I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, obviously everyone was. Yeah.
Listen, I was fooled.
Should have been me.
But I was literally like going to bed. I was like, you know what? I'm probably going to pre-jury, but at least I'm going with Oakley, so I have a friend in there.
I remember I was the other person in that tree with you and Julia. So when you left unanimously, I looked at Julia like, "Are you kidding?"
And it was interesting because we woke up in the morning. It was me, German, and Charlie. We went outside. We were looking for a pendant or something like that. And I think we were like solidifying, like, we need to take out Bergen. We need to take the shot, X, Y, and Z, da, 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 da. And I felt good. I was like, okay, us three, we just locked it in. They didn't have to lock it in. They didn't have to make this promise with me. All we have to do is flip Julia at that point in time. And they was like, yeah, we got to try to get Julia on board. Like, I wake up Julia. And I'm like, hey, Julia, I know you're sleeping. But I just make sure. But I just want to make sure you're good. How you feel about the vote? You want to do Bergen? And she's like, I'm like, oh, I'll talk to you later. Okay, it's fine. So, and it's funny because I was brushing my teeth with Sky, and Sky was like, "How's the vote looking?" And I was like, "80% chance it's me, but 20% chance it's Bergen." And she was like, And I was like, "Oh."
Wait, so what was the vote count on your team? I forgot.
It was 5-1.
If I'm remembering
Oh, the
correctly,
same as mine?
I think
Yeah.
it was 5-1, 5-1, and then 4-1-1. I think were the three votes.
We both got freaking
Mhm.
unanimous.
Dave,
I was racking my brain heading into this conversation because I knew you were going to be here, AJ, and I was like, I don't remember like why it was you. Like I just genuinely don't remember, because you were somebody who I was like, oh, like AJ is somebody that I maybe could work with. You know, I kind of said that about everybody, which I think maybe
I was gonna say you were set up so well in the middle. Like,
I was trying so hard to be good with everybody, which is I think what sort of you know, hurts me in a lot of these votes, because I was trying to sow little seeds with everybody. But I genuinely like, no, I think Charlie mentioned, either it was when he was on here or in one of the other conversations we had, of he was looking at you, and I don't want to misquote him, but I feel like he was already also like fairly on board with your vote out. Because I think he mentioned in our live, it was either when we were rewatching the episode or in our chat, like how he was like, he just needed you to drop, and he was looking for you to go this round. So I genuinely don't remember why it was you. Like, it just was, I think everybody else was a little more connected, but
look, because if you look, because at least if you look at my point of view, like the people I wanted to go deep in the game with was Oakley, Sam, Nia, Maddie. Like, you notice I'm not saying people I was on a team with. Like, so
yeah.
So I was like, I already felt like I was like high key the odd man out. I was like the easy person to go at that round. And I was like watching, I was like, okay, yeah, see, these people are a lot more connected, and that's what I expected looking at the team. So I wasn't surprised. But what I love, and I adore you, Sam. I think it was that morning I found out that you and Debbie were in the room together. I was like, oh my God, this is where y'all slept? I've been looking for y'all.
You didn't know that Sam and I were roommates?
No. If you weren't in that big room, I didn't know where you were.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Also, like Corian and Lance were in the room together too,
next door to us.
And then and then Oakley and German
and Bergen, and then Mike also. Mike was sleeping in the closet first night, and then the second night, Mike was voted out, and that was the challenge overnight. And Bergen also moved into the Coliseum, so German and I was chilling in the king bed together the whole night.
And like,
but it was that morning. I found out, and Sam was like, "Oh, how's everything going?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know how it's going to go. I'm pushing hard for Bergen to go." Sam closes the door.
So I was like, AJ, no. No, I'm like, AJ, I want to see you live another day.
I also did forget that Charlie. Also, I just remembered now that Charlie and Julia and German were a very, very tight group. So I think it was the three of them, and then Julia was in the 6 with Bergen. So I think it just was, you were like the least connected person on that team.
Yeah, because I remember I talked to Julia after the game ended, right? And she was like, "Yeah, like your my alliance with you was the one I valued the least, and that's what I had to go." And I was like, "You know what? Fair enough, Julia."
I like how straightforward she was about that. Like, that's what I appreciate.
That's honesty right there. Like,
I respected it.
I think
AJ.
We were Julia's scraps, AJ.
Listen, baby.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Debbie.
No, I was gonna say, like, I don't know what we can mention on here. Like, I mean, you can edit it anyway, right? But like,
anything before episode 5.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, well, when we're voted out, like at the vote out house, like obviously me and AJ go this episode. Like, I feel like I talked to you more at the vote out house, AJ, than I did in the game. Like, we bonded way more in the vote out house.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. So, like, my point is like, if you're not on a team with someone, like AJ and I, we talked the first night because you let me win that first thing, and like right away we kind of bonded of the tic-tac-toe game, and you're like, fine, you could win it or whatever. And I remembered that, but then we were never on a team together and we never got to talk.
Like I did not realize like how separating being on different teams were. Like I really thought like, okay, we're still all in the same house. Life is like fine, I could chit chat with anyone.
Yeah.
But no, like y'all had a vote and y'all were like, I gotta make sure I'm safe. I gotta see where the vote lands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh damn, well, I'll be over here talking to Oakley.
I think you start to see that. You start to see that in episode 4 and episode 5 a lot. Well, not as much in episode 5 because like the teams were everybody was voting, so it was a little different. But you start seeing that in episode 4, and I think that's what gets me in trouble. Is I was coming into the game having watched season 4, where no matter if you were safe or not safe or whatever, everybody was in every conversation at all times. And so going into the season, I was like, that's what I got to do. I got to make sure I'm talking to everybody, safe, not safe, voting, not voting, like no matter what. And I think our season was very much like, if you're safe, like we don't like you go over there and you have your safe time and you relax, and we're going to be over here and voting. And so I think it made it like, I think it started making it very rigid in terms of like people's loyalties. It wasn't like, it was still very fluid, don't get me wrong, it was a very fluid season, but I think it sort of separated people because if you weren't voting together, you didn't get a lot of time to talk to each other. And so I think it didn't allow for certain certain different groups of people to end up working together in the game for sure.
Yeah, like this, it's interesting. Like this would have been a way different game if it was like Big Brother or Survivor, because you know, like up to this episode, you know, like friends of mine that were even watching were like, I can't tell who's working with who unless it's in a confessional, like who's in whose alliance. But it's so hard to tell because of different teams. But if you're playing Survivor or Big Brother, you could tell who's in whose alliance because you're always going to be with those people, whether they're on your tribe or you're playing Big Brother. So I think it is hard for people to know who's working with who because it changes every round.
Which is why, you know, it like the social aspect of Ascendance is what keeps drawing me back to the format, because at the end of it, it's what are your relationships like? Because you can't really rely on anything else. At the end of the day, that is the one thing within your control, whether or not you're on a team with them. Like if you don't have time, then you need to make time. Like there's just so many things that there's just so many moving parts that the one thing you can control, like it is such a big, huge, important part of the game. Yeah. But I just got to go back for like a second, AJ. I want to know, I need to know, what was your reaction to me telling you Bergen's not a good idea because these 5 people are attached? Like, what did you do with that?
I was like, I was like, I'm gone. I'm screwed. I was like, thank you, Sam, for putting me out of my misery. No, that's not what happened. I legit pivoted for 25 minutes. For like 25 minutes, I was no longer pushing the Bergen. I was like, okay, Julia, what do you want to do? You know I'm loyal to you. I made the final 3. I don't be making deals like that often. So I was genuinely sincere with you. I was like trying to get close to Bergen. I was like, Bergen, what you want to do? X, Y, Z. I heard my name is out there. I know your name is out there. I don't want to go home. I'm sure you don't want to go home. So what should we do from that? So like that was my change. I was like, after what you told me that, I was like, okay, let me see if I can pivot. And I still wasn't getting nothing. So when I kept getting nothing, I was like, screw it. If I'm getting voted out, I'm not getting voted out. I'm sitting on the sidelines just being like, okay, I'm gone. I'm going to try to take the shot. And if I miss, at least I took the shot. So that's when I started rallying again, like 25 minutes after that. Like, okay, Bergen to everyone except for Bergen.
I mean, honestly, it's the best. I was just going to say, like, it's the best thing to do. Like, if you know your name's on the chopping block, like, you got to pitch. You can't just go lay down and go.
You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
And I think in the episode, I was like, you saw this point where I was like, Julia, even if it's me, I'm okay. Just let me know. And that was after you told me that's Y and Z. I was like, okay, just be 100% with me, because I would prefer not to waste this energy if you ain't going to budge. But if there's a chance, I'm gonna fight for that chance. Like, don't give me rope because I will hang myself. But I'm gonna be running hard.
Oh, I don't remember who had brought this up, but Josh, you had just about Charlie, Charlie Bergen and AJ.
Charlie-
I think.
Sorry. go
Yeah,
ahead.
there was. You weren't sure what had happened there, or like why Charlie was after Bergen, but no, wait, sorry, I'm mixing it up. What was the thing that you were like unsure about?
Yeah, because I think in one of our conversations, and I am not sure where the conversation was, whether it was like pre-recording Charlie's episode of this show with us or after or during one of our like viewing parties, I think he mentioned he was pretty like on board right out of the get-go of going after AJ. But I think it's because of his relationship with German and Julia.
Yeah, and I think Bergen, I think we'll have to ask Bergen this follow-up question, but I think there was like some like he had done some things purposefully to make Charlie think these things, because you see it in Charlie's voting confessional where he's like, you want to play or something. I don't know, something about playing in traffic.
Sam, when I
it
saw
was
that
funny. It was savage.
I was shook. I was like, Charlie, what did I do to you? I was like, whoa.
No, I think that's Bergen. I think Bergen like kind of created some friction there. That's my theory. I would love to
remember Charlie
and ask.
Charlie was fairly like not aggressive in going after you, but I remember he was pretty
fired up.
He was pretty solid of like, this is what I want to do this round, and there really wasn't another option for him in my recollection.
Yeah.
But again, I talked to every single person that round because I was voting in every single vote. So a lot of it just went in one ear and out the other. Like my brain just forgot so many of the things. And you could see somebody commented in the YouTube when we were watching live, I didn't realize how much I said the word like in a sentence. And I think it was because my brain was just so fried. And my friends were asking, they're like, how was your brain so fried? Like, wasn't this first thing in the morning? And I was like, yeah, but I was voting 3 times and I had to talk to 16 extra people, like 16 individual people to make sure I knew what was happening. And so it's funny to watch those things back of like, I don't remember half of the things that happened in that round because it was so wild. Like even why Nia ended up being the choice there was something that I'm still like, I don't really remember. It just kind of happened, you know? And I don't know if Sam, if you can speak to that at all, like why it ended up being on her.
Yeah. So when it comes to the blue team vote, I don't remember what exactly happened. To bring, okay, sorry, I'm just like looking down at my notes, but
well, I know we had a conversation, you and me and Dave sat up in that hallway outside the kitchen for a good long time after the challenge had ended.
Yeah, and so Nia's game was a really big question mark to me, and so like on a personal level, she's just absolutely magnetic and had just this quality about her aura, her energy, her just everything. You just kind of like, it was just like the nice warm hug, and like so refreshing. And like, I don't know, we had a conversation, it was just us two in the basement and people were, I don't know, around eating, doing whatever, and I was like, I love her. And we like, you know, we got deep like pretty quickly, and I was just like oh, like yay.
Wait, can I tell you something that Nia told me? Nia was like, AJ, the moment I saw you, I was like, I'm gonna hate you.
And she was like that. Like she really was. Like I remember having some really good like personal conversations with her to the point of where like we both got really emotional having this conversation, and like there were like tears, and her and I, and it was like just this side conversation that happened out of nothing and just went somewhere really deep really quickly to the point where we were talking about really personal things. And which is why I'm like, I don't remember why her name even came up, because she was just a joy to be around, just somebody who was very easy to be vulnerable with and comfortable around, and just had this, like you said, this just magnetic personality that just kind of drew you right in.
So everything that we just described, keep that in your mind. Now, the game side of things, I have zero idea who she's loyal to, zero idea who she's aligned with loosely, tightly. I don't know. And that's scary as fuck, because you just see what she's capable of on a social level, and just her like existing, just being herself, right? And like because she's so good that way, I was like, there's got to be game stuff going on too, and I'm not privy to any of it. And it was this thing where everybody's kind of like, you hear Nia say it like, oh, Sam's flip-floppy, or we don't know what's going on. Because like I really didn't like any of the options, and I didn't think there'd be traction there to say Nia. I didn't think that was a safe word to speak out loud, without feeling the wrath of everybody come back on me. So when it was me and Maddie and Dave in a room, and I was basically like, I'm hearing both of your names and I don't want to vote either of you. Why don't we have the numbers here right now. Josh will do what we want essentially. But also we don't need Josh. We have 3. As long as it doesn't tie somewhere else. We didn't think that it would. And it was just one of those split decisions where it was like, okay, forget how you feel in your heart or you're playing a game. And what game reasons do you have to keep Nia? And there weren't any. And so we locked it in, and it was, I don't know, 25 seconds before the round was over. It was very, very fast.
I do remember I think there was a shot of you and Dave and I talking about it. And I think that was like right before we were in the kitchen pantry, I think. And that was like right before the vote went down. I remember we just went into that cupboard and it was like, what are we doing? Because I remember even in my confessional, it's like, I don't know where the blue team's heads are at. Like it was so late and nobody was really committing to any plan, because it was like, oh, well, it's going to be either Dave or Maddie. And it was like, okay, but which one? Well, either Dave or Maddie. And I'm like, okay, but like, which one? And so I remember when you brought up those points of like, she's a giant question mark, and where is she loyal, and she won't really talk game to anybody. And I think it was that she just wasn't talking game to anybody that she wasn't really closely aligned with. And I think that kind of ended up hurting her, because people didn't really know where her head was at. And it was like, well, we want to keep everybody else. So like the luck of the draw on that one. But
wasn't
it was
in the 6 with both of you at one point at least.
No, so she
considered.
She was in
not
the
officially.
original thought process, because Sky really liked her. But then when we started getting to the point of I think she said to Sky at some point, like, I don't do alliances and I don't want to, I'm not going to commit to anything. Like, I'm just going to play my own game. And we very quickly were like, okay, well, it's Julia now instead. And that's why you see in the episode before, I think when Gluck goes out, Bergen and I are in a room together, and he stops the conversation we were having to be like, Nia's a problem, and we have to. And so that's when Sam and Dave and them were sort of like, oh, it's Nia. I was like, okay, well, the 6 kind of already wants her. She's appeared on our radar as somebody we can't control. So it was the right time to pull the trigger on that one. But I think it's interesting. You look at who's left and who's still there, and it feels very much like the game is this. I think this was really the kickoff point of like, people are like, we've made a few little moves and we've gotten rid of some people that maybe we're not as connected with. And it sort of is like, okay, now everybody's kind of really connected with each other. And this is when you sort of start to see the claws are going to start coming out, which I don't know. Yeah, which we're obviously we'll talk about when it happens. But from your guys' perspectives, did you feel like that was sort of the case of like, when you left, did you feel like you were just on the cusp of like the game was about to get started?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like, oh shit, a triple is like, I felt like if it wasn't a triple, like, I don't know what would have happened, but it depends like how the teams were, like if we were in teams or one, like I felt like if it wasn't a triple, I could have maybe been okay. And then things could have happened. And then like day 2, I was like about to start an alliance because I was slow to get. Yeah. So yeah, I just remember like, like I said, I know it didn't happen yet, but I know like, hopefully they'll show it, like a lot of surprises and stuff when we get to because vote out Villa, because like I saw AJ went, but then I didn't see Nia went, AJ didn't see I went. So I remember one thing AJ said to me when I got there, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it here. So
I think so, because this will probably air. We'll air this after Villa airs. I think.
Yeah. So we get to the vote out Villa, and like I there for Nia's, but not AJ's. So I'm like bawling, crying. My sunglasses are on. Matthew, she's like, do you want to bring your suitcase in? I'm like, no. Like I was just so upset. And I remember like it was like the 4 guys and like Jaws were like and AJ or someone, it was AJ or Mike or someone was like, oh my God, like why is the winner here? Like I thought you were gonna win or something like that. I think it was you, AJ. But I remember like everyone was like shocked and I was like, why are you guys so shocked? And you were like, I guess like no one knew how people were voting. I didn't in the other rounds because I was just focused on mine. But I just remember it was like very emotional for me. And then I don't know how AJ's was, but when Nia comes in, she was just like, okay, let's have fun. I mean, she was upset, like kind of what she said, like, I'm going to do my art. And I'm like sitting there crying and everyone's like, I just needed more time to process it. But I just think like you see at the vote out villa, we're like, oh shit, the game gets started. And then there's like more things happen. But yeah.
No, I also felt like we were like on the cusp. Of it because pause. I loved him. I love Gluck. I love Mike. I do. Like Oakley was talking about the people he wanted to work with kept getting voted out. The people I wanted to work with kept getting voted out. Like it was not a good thing. But when you were looking at the first few boots, I was like, yeah, like they were like low key, like obvious. Like, yes, these were the easy votes. These were the votes that like people aren't trying to make a move. These people aren't trying to make a splash. So these are the people that are going to get voted out at this point in time. So, and especially, and I was really surprised with that because I was also because back to the conversation I had with Sky in the bathroom, I was like, oh, so is it Oakley or are y'all doing something different? She was like, I don't know. And I was like, ooh, is that happening? I was like,
She wouldn't tell you.
but that was like the annoying thing because it was like with that one, I was like, oh, something interesting could be happening over there. I didn't feel that in my vote. So I'm like, I'm just missing out on when the game's like about to start getting real. And like we're like not just voting out like people we feel less comfortable with, but we're actually like starting to take strikes and moves in the game. So that was like,
yeah, I felt like the game was like getting started, but because I also felt like Corian might have been in trouble because he had votes on him the round before, and like there were a few people, you know, that if they weren't safe, like I felt like I needed to win the captain one before too. So yeah,
this is definitely the place where we get to have those conversations of like, what if, like, what happened if it is maybe it's a double and one team is safe and the other two are voting, or maybe it's just a single elimination round, and so it's like there's lots of iterations of the game where if AJ you pick green instead of black, then maybe you survive the round. So it's just always fun to talk about those kinds of things, and we can't change what happened because it happened, and we all made those choices, but it's always fun to get to talk with you guys and hear your perspectives and think about, hey, what could have been, maybe I go out in the round, something happens and Gluck has a pendant and then I'm gone in episode 4 instead of him, right? So
I had the full pendant.
Or and just has the full pendant.
Yeah. And just to add to that real quick with Nia, learning after the game that this was she had never played before. I don't think she had ever played an org or an LRG. And so, even like just knowing that, I think would have changed my mind like completely on like what like the story that I fabricated in my head, because like my read was so obviously wrong. But I was just so convinced. And I think too, because I think it's just kind of like human nature, but you'll fill in the blanks that you don't know. And I was just filling them in completely wrong there. But yeah, just kind of hindsight, but looking back, it's like, oh, okay. I see. Like,
wait, she didn't tell you? She had told me during the show that she never played before. Like, and then she's Chris's friend from. Okay, I think she told me she'd never played.
I had no idea until after the season.
I think I knew, but I have no idea how. Maybe she told me, or she told someone else.
I know she told me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she told me too. Because we were
maybe she just didn't like y'all enough.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, is there anything else? I think we've sort of covered the whole episode, really. Is there anything else that comes to mind for anybody of maybe something that they didn't get a chance to speak on in this episode or maybe a previous episode? Because this is your first chance. Well, Debbie, you were on another one, but AJ and Oakley, this is your first chance to sort of rehash some of these things. Is there anything before we sort of wrap up that you wasn't shown that you want to talk about that was funny or whatever?
So here's the one funny moment I was thinking about. It was the first night of the game, right? I know of Dave. I knew Dave a little bit. We played like a little game before. I kept eyeing Sam because it's like I feel like I know you, Sam, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, oh, there's someone here. But like the only person I like was like I know Sky. So everyone's in the one room. Sky's in the kitchen. I see Sky's in the kitchen. I start to run to her, and she's like, "Stop!" Like I thought to run and give her a big cut. She's like, "Don't you dare!" She's like, "Don't you dare!" She's like, and she's like, we cannot be seen together. If they see you hug me, they're going to know we're a duo. And I was like, fine, I won't hug you. And then I never saw her again.
She said, good luck.
That's just how it goes sometimes. Yeah. If you don't end up on the same team or the same, round of voting, sometimes somebody you just like were ships in the night. Like Maddie was somebody who I hardly ever saw because we were just never on the same team.
Wait, but I was just going to say, I know it was just like a little, like not a real thing, but the first night me, you and Maddie were like the purple posse. So that was, you said you had no other alliances. That was kind of ish.
I wish I took that more seriously than I did because I'm like, that could have helped me, if I was a little closer to you and Maddie, that could have been something. And that was part of why I didn't want to vote you out when we happened. Because I was like, I have that connection with Debbie. But I should have utilized it a little more.
Well, that like clearly I read it wrong. That's partly why I was like, I feel good with Josh because I never really saw Maddie either. But I was like, purple posse, we've got the and I remember there was like only one time in like the second episode where the three of us were in a room together. We're like, oh, it's the purple posse.
And that's the moment I realized that you thought it was more serious than I did because I really forgot about it. I was like, yeah, we said that in the hallway. And then we were in that room together and you were like, purple posse. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm like, they think this is real. And I should have, instead of being like, oh, this isn't real, I should have jumped in on that of like, yes, this is real. Instead of being like, haha, they thought it was real.
Yeah. Maddie kind of thought it was real, but I never was on a team with him. So we didn't really get to talk.
Yeah.
I like gave him good, I remember we were sitting near each other and we were like, yeah, like we had each other, but we were never on a team together. So,
yeah. And that same, it goes like for you, like for me with you, AJ, seeing you're a familiar face. And I'll tell you why I may have been a familiar face. I think I might've told you this story, but I'll just say it again. Yes. You're the first person that I ever saw napping on a Zoom call. Okay. And so we're going way back to March of 2020. Okay. Maybe this is like February or March, April, May. This may be in the spring. And we've all been stuck at home for long enough now that like hanging out in a big group on a Zoom call is no longer weird. But like we're in that fine line of like, okay, this is kind of like the new normal, but I had never seen somebody just kind of knock out on call and the rest of us just keep hanging out and we just mute that person's mic and, carry on. Cause that's just kind of what you did back then. AJ is the first person I ever watched nap on a Zoom call while we were just hanging out. But I think we were just like acquaintances, if anything at that point, like just, mutual friends who had a Zoom going and we just ended up there. But that's my first time meeting you.
No, you told me that. I was like, oh my God, that was a good nap.
They were like those calls, like they would just go for, I don't know, hours and hours and hours.
It depended on the side of the community that you were on, because I knew a lot of my friends would go on those, but I was never on a lot of them, but I knew that they existed.
But Twitter mini era.
I wish I knew about orgs during like the height of COVID when we were all locked in our homes, because I only knew about this like a little over a year and a half ago. Like, I wish I knew when like we were stuck home, bored, and I was doing Zoom calls with or FaceTimes with my friends. Like, we're bored as hell.
I'm gonna jump in and just say Oakley, do you have anything you want to add in terms of the episodes, and then we can end the recording and talk about the COVID zoo, org stuff?
Yeah.
I do want to point out that the first pendant officially being claimed in this game was due to alcohol usage. Because when we were having our little mob menage a trois together, that was so awkward, and I knew it was too the entire time. So I was like, I'll just keep drinking. Just keep drinking, and you'll be able to get through this. And neither of them wanted to drink because I think they wanted to keep their senses, which was not on the forefront of my mind at all. So I drink half this bottle of wine. I haven't eaten anything the entire day, and it's late at night, and I'm just down there trying to help with the math. I still have my notebook with all the squiggles of numbers. I'm looking like, this was not the way that you were supposed to do this. And it reached a point where I was just like, oh, I want to go to bed so bad. I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm just going to take it. I can't deal with it. I can't go out for another 15 minutes being like, well, who wants it? Well, you want it? Well, oh, Gluck's over there with his hand up. He wants it, but he doesn't want to get off his air mattress for it. So I reached my limit, and that was the only reason that pendant actually got claimed that night.
Yeah, and you did use it the first round, so.
You sure did.
I do remember that there was that whole like, well, who's gonna take it? Do you want it? Do you want it? Do you want it? And I was like, I just left the room because I was like, nope, this is gonna go on forever. I don't know. I'm sure everybody had the thought, but I was so ready to like Mission Impossible, like sneak through the house in the middle of the night to take it from the safe when people were like, oh, we're gonna leave it in the safe overnight. And I was like, I've got this. I'm so ready. But then you took it. So
I was never gonna agree to that. As soon as people started saying that, that's when I think the idea really started going into my head of I'm taking this.
Yeah. And it made for a great, first episode, well, second episode there for sure. It definitely made things interesting and definitely changed the game for you.
For sure. I don't know if it necessarily changed the game for me in a lot of good ways. It made sure I didn't go first when I really thought it would.
All right.
man.
Well, we'll close out the show here. I mean, we could keep talking forever and ever. And at some point, it's like it's no longer going to be interesting to listen to. So, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, though. I don't know, these conversations are like highlight of my Ascendance experience, honestly, because it's keeping the experience going, and like I'm getting to like relive it in the best way, but also like I'm still like learning all of these things. So yeah, I just really appreciate like everybody coming on here and just loving and caring about this game just like as much as I do.
Yeah, we really appreciate, like, Sam and I birthed this out of just a small idea, and we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your evenings to come and chat about this game that we played 6 months ago. And we really value your time, and we appreciate the response that it's gotten from you. So we just want to say a big thank you, and make sure that everybody at home checks out Ascendance, follow, like, subscribe. Watch the videos, especially if you want season 6. We're really pushing for season 6, so you gotta like and watch and comment. And yeah, and I don't know how else you want to close out the show, but thanks for joining us.
Bye, everyone.